This episode is brought to you by Suzy, a cutting-edge market research software platform that empowers some of the biggest companies in the world, like Citibank and Procter & Gamble. To find out more about how Suzy can help you stay competitive, go to tearsheet.co/Suzy. Welcome to the Tearsheet Podcast, where we explore financial services together with an eye on technology, innovation, emerging models, and changing expectations. I'm Tearsheet Editor-in-Chief, Zach Miller, and joining me today is Jessica Chen Riolfi, Uprise's co-founder and CEO. Uprise is an embedded financial advisory for SMB platforms. And Jessica has extensive experience in product growth and international expansion with deep knowledge of fintech, payments, e-commerce marketplaces, and consumer technologies at firms like Robinhood, Earnin, Wise, and eBay, some of the best names in the business. Welcome to the show, Jessica.
Thank you so much, Zach. Thank you for having me.
So these are Uprise is interesting because it combines two big themes, like trends that we've been talking on this podcast for years. The embedded finance side, as well as addressing SMBs, and instead of SMBs being falling in between some consumer banking and enterprise banking, they have their own needs and deservedly should have their own products. So maybe take us through the genesis story of Uprise and what compelled you to form it. Like, where did you see the opportunity here?
Yeah, it's been a journey. And so yes, as you mentioned, Uprise is embedded financial advisory for small business platforms, for the small business owners that they work with. And maybe the first thing I'll say is
B2B to B.
B2B to small b, that's right.
B2B to SMB, yeah.
Yes, exactly. And one thing I'll say first is actually that financial advisory, this term to set the stage for folks listening, is that this is both business and personal finances. Like, we basically help them make financial decisions, and we kind of ignore the line between business and personal. So that's something I think that is
because their lives are so commingled, not just finances, but time, energy, everything. It's their whole lives, right?
That's exactly it. Like, small business owners see them as one and the same, and so therefore we also
I'm one of those. I know the drill. Yeah.
Yeah. So how we got here is initially when I set out, I have two co-founders, Chris and Nantha. I had just left Robinhood and was thinking that this financial advisory, like much more, the ability to give specific personalized recommendations on what you should do with your finances was something that I really think that Robinhood should have built, and still think that Robinhood should build. And I paired up with Chris, who had just coming off of JustWorks, which is payroll and benefits.
Yep.
He had been facing the same thing about there really needs to be better guidance for people using payroll platforms on what they should be doing, what benefits they should be taking, stuff like that. And Nantha, coming off of Meta, was working on financial planning tools within Meta, and seeing similar, his users struggling with products. So basically, we were working on complex financial products, and we came together with this sort of vision of, like, we need to simplify financial decision making. And so we initially launched it to sort of like Robinhood type customers, like Gen Z, millennials, and kept it pretty broad, as many people do. And we launched on Product Hunt. And I was telling somebody this, like, the customers that came through on Product Hunt, we were the number one personal finance product on Product Hunt in 2022.
Wow.
And the number, so a ton of customers were coming through the Product Hunt channel, and we couldn't serve them because a bunch of them were small business owners, consultants, freelancers, creators, doctors. And then another bunch of them they were all older. So we had built this for Gen Z, single people, but they were married, they had kids. And it was like, oh my gosh, this is where the need is. And so we went back to the drawing board, and we built our product around small business owners, around people in their 30s, 40s, even 50s, sort of still growing their wealth, but with a lot more complexity. And so, and that's kind of sort of how it evolved in terms of the end user, the pull in that direction. And then simultaneously, yeah, go ahead.
I'm kind of curious. I want you to finish the story, but
Yes.
like along the way, like what was unique about those SMB owners that was different than the people you designed for initially?
Yes. Yeah. So it's exactly what we were talking about earlier. It's the intermingling between personal and finance. And a lot of the questions that we were receiving from a lot of these small business owners were around what type of entity should I set up? What
Very
like
technical.
S corp elections on your LLC? These are business related questions, but they very much impact their personal finances. Even saving for retirement for a small business owner, you have unique retirement accounts, solo 401ks, and SEP IRAs that are that are unique for your situation. Even small business owners trying to apply for a mortgage, they have like the traditional mortgage system is not set up for for the lumpy income streams and stuff like that. And so really being able to help people think through funding sources both for their business and for their personal goals. These are some of the unique things that have come up that we've really built into our product.
And as you decided to hone in on the SMB owners who were a little bit older, and I guess more settled in their lives, their personal lives, did the delivery of the product evolve as well? How you delivered it, the channel you delivered it, the form that you delivered it, did that evolve?
Yeah, that's a great question. So a little bit. We have a lot of learnings in terms of maybe if I take a step back in terms of just sharing with you a little bit of how it's delivered today. Every small business owner who comes through and interacts with our platform through the embedded partners is assigned one-to-one to a human advisor. And that has always
Wow.
been true from the beginning, which we knew had to be true, right? Like the human connection, the trust, these are your finances. It's actually very, very critical that you trust. And so there's a human advisor. In the background, we've built a ton of tooling for that advisor. To make that advisor really fast, we can generate recommendations for the customer situation. We can spot when data doesn't make sense, like, oh, you have really good credit, but then you didn't connect any credit cards, like what's going on there, that kind of stuff. And we also can generate draft responses to customer questions. But everything gets checked by the human advisor before it goes to the end user. This is both in terms of that relationship as well as double checking sort of any AI any AI generated response before it goes to the customer. So that's kind of how it works. I think how it's evolved. In some cases, we realize. So for an example, one of our partners is Herd. They do vertical SaaS for therapists. And we added a premium tier on top of their platform, really where you're able to get, tax and financial planning. And so one of the things we realized about therapists is that they really care about, again, the relationship. They especially care about the relationship. And for them, we realized that actually calls, setting up a Zoom call with your advisor really matters. So we have been, experimenting with sort of, depending on the partner and their end users, what is the right combination of calls versus asynchronous. But that's very much just sort of the product evolving as it goes and making sure that we have the right package for the right end user.
And how are your relationships structured? I guess financially, you're embedding these in a third party platform. You're charging a third party platform, and they can mark it up in some way on their own end, and that you're
That's
sort of
exactly
agnostic
right.
to the front end. Okay.
So it's very much a revenue driver for our partners who are SMB platforms. They're able to mark up meaningfully and so it works out to be a rev share. There's also a small platform fee to cover the sort of the white labeling and setting up the instance on our side. But that's generally how the packaging works.
The financial industry depends on data, but not all data is created equal. Choosing partners who can separate fleeting trends from groundbreaking innovations is more crucial than ever. If you want to unearth what forces are shaping the industry right now, download our guide at tearsheet.co/Suzy. And would these advisors, are they dedicated to a specific client that comes through one of your partners?
That's correct. Yes, they
Okay.
get assigned one-to-one, and that same advisor sort of follows them through the end user through their journey as small business owners.
What I mean by that is that advisor dedicated to that client's customers.
So you're saying
Could a
no,
single
I-
advisor handle multiple of your partners' clients at the end of the day?
Yes.
Yes.
So our
okay.
advisors could handle multiple partners, but
So it
from
could
the
be a
end
therapist,
user
but it could also
perspective,
be
you
like
get assigned to one.
okay.
Yes.
Okay. Well, so I guess that's a question like, is there value in an embedded platform? Well, I guess that's a question. Where do you decide to be broad platform level versus go deeper from the advisory side, like as an embedded solution?
In terms of end users or types of platforms.
End users. Right,
Yeah.
because again, there's certain shared qualities I guess all SMB owners have. Like we're always cash is crunched always, but a therapist and the way a therapist gets paid may be very different than an Uber driver or something. So
That's fair. So a lot of learnings that we've had in terms of, hey, this is the right fit. This is the right stage for when to offer something like Uprise, when to engage with your users. And so I would say some learnings are we work with people who are making about 80 to 100K. So your business is generating 80 to 100K plus up until the point where you have a full-time CFO, at which point, great job, best wishes.
you've graduated.
Ahead. That's right.
Exactly.
And for us, it's always been this mission of traditional wealth management or private banking really has these very high net worth minimums. We very much care about bringing that down. But we realize that also up until the point where you're making 80 to 100K in your business, the main goal for the business owner really should be growing the business. Right? Like growing, that's the number one priority. And then when you sort of hit that threshold, both we see it in terms of business owners engaging, but also our recommendation too is okay, now this is a good time to let's go back. Let's review your entity. Let's review your books, your taxes, this kind of stuff, and make sure you're set up, and then also start planning for the future. So these are some of the things that we've discovered. Folks who also are more, I would say, people who work in front of a computer, it's easier to engage with them because they're more available. Not to say that folks who are in the field and this kind of stuff don't have this need as well. But for us, it's trying to figure out, okay, maybe, adding phone calls to our product, this kind of stuff makes it a lot easier, lowers the friction for those types of business owners to onboard as well.
That's interesting. So over the past couple of years, we've actually seen a lot more. I wouldn't say a lot, but a lot more embedded platforms come, like the Zells of this world, the embedded payroll players, like you were talking about. And one of the challenges I've heard from them, from the leaders in the companies, is even though it's a platform business, they're still helping their platform partners, their embedded partners, market to their end customer. Like it's not that
Absolutely.
There's two audiences that they're really doing. How do you handle sort of that nuance? Because your business and the impact better than the partner might certainly in the beginning. And so how do you handle helping them be better at telling what you guys do?
No, absolutely. We very much see our partnerships as a partnership. Like we're in this together, and I think that's actually been very nice to be able to work with very deeply in terms of product building and marketing and this kind of stuff with our partners. And so I actually see it going both ways. One is, yes, we understand financial planning, tax planning, this kind of stuff, and small business owner needs very well, but Herd, for example, really understands therapists and how therapists work, their schedules, and this kind of stuff. And so we have very frequent conversations. Our partnerships are not one and done. It's not like launch and goodbye. Even afterwards, we're continuing to meet regularly to set up joint webinars, joint master classes for their users with input from both sides, making sure, taking a look at the copy, taking a look at the banner placements, this kind of stuff. And so we share all of our best practices and recognizing that the partner needs to take that and then adapt it for their users.
It's pretty cool because you're a network or because you're handling multiple partners, you can you're sitting on top of it. You can see what one partner is doing, which may be successful, and help to, message that out to other partners. I could see how that works. Yeah. And what metrics do you use internally, I guess, to measure the efficacy of your deliverables?
Yes. The two, I think, North Star metrics for us, more important than anything else, number one is NPS. NPS of the end users coming through. That has always been true. We, as you can tell, the three of us co-founders, we're product builders, and there's nothing that's more important than customer value that we're providing. The second goal is attach rate. So for the partners' end users, what percentage of their end users are attaching to our product? And so we're targeting 15 to 30% is sort of the target range. And within that range, it's usually the way the partner should think about it is like, hey, these are the most engaged, best performing customers, and this is a way to sort of retain them over time, engage them over time, and also generate more revenue. And so then the third metric right below those two is retention, engagement, utilization of the product.
That makes a lot of sense. And in terms of working with your partners, how do you determine the level of embeddedness? And by that, I mean, like, you gave two examples. So Herd, which is a platform for therapists, the level of data you take in and understanding about the end user may be different than embedding in a JustWorks type company, where you're actually getting, payroll data through
of course, yeah.
Is there a distinction with your clients as you're building an embedded finance platform about the depth of embeddedness for you guys?
Yes, and maybe let me answer the data part second and talk about sort of the embedding process first. We very much believe in sort of like a crawl, walk, run type of embedded approach. And so the first thing that we do with every partner before we go live is a completely manual pilot. No engineering, nothing on either side, where no
really smoke and mirrors.
Yes, we send out an email. It's not even smoke and mirrors. You actually can manually connect their end users with our advisors, but we send out an email and we're testing for demand. And then from there, we select 10 people to chat with a CFP from our team, and through this process, we're understanding demand, we're understanding feedback, what types of questions that your users have about their finances, this kind of stuff. And from there, we're able to, make sure that actually when we do invest the engineering resources on both sides, that is going to be successful. So that's the crawl part. And then the walk part is we can host the entire experience on our side and sort of integrate via an iframe, a very quick iframe, into the partner's dashboard, or into a web view, into their mobile app. So both of those work. And that ends up being very quick, where it's already built, the components are already built on our side. And then from there, there's a lot more customization. Okay, we want these widgets to be in this other part of our product. Then we have like APIs, this kind of stuff that we can continue to deepen that integration and customize that integration for the partners platform as we go, but with tons of data to support that this sort of investment, this engineering investment makes sense. So that's kind of how that goes. On data specifically, even probably in the walk phase, when we're embedding the hosted experience, we have full suite of APIs where if you partner have some of this data that we need in the onboarding questionnaire, so things like what are your income, your expenses, how the business is performing, previous year tax returns, bank balances, account balances, stuff like that. Any information you have can be sent through to us via API, which allows us to simplify the onboarding flow. But even if the partner doesn't have it, then we can also just ask the customer to provide it. And so this ends up being both good in terms of like the partner has some data we can simplify, but simultaneously the partner is getting a lot more data that they didn't previously have.
Got it. You also mentioned advising your advisors, giving advice on source of funding. Do you work with SBA loans and stuff like that as well?
Yes, actually we have. So we have a partner. This is still under NDA, but we know a lot about SBA loans, a lot about, from an SBA loan perspective, a lot of what we try to do to help small business owners is to like put together that package. It is a lot. And so making sure that even before you start the process, A, is it a good fit? Is this the right funding option for you compared to, all the other business or personal funding sources? But then from there, like making sure you have your books in order, you have your previous year tax returns in order, you have if you're an early business, if you have the business case or your business plan put together, this kind of stuff, making sure just helping the business owners through that process, and making sure they're able to get the funding they need.
I want to go back to something you said, Jessica, in the beginning and sort of the ethos of the company, right? This was something that you mentioned, like Robinhood should have built. I want to look at like traditional financial institutions and where you see them focusing on delivering value to SMBs, and is even to the point, like, is this something you can imagine partnering with a bank at some point in delivering, and if not, why?
Yes. We do. We do in the future see the possibility of partnering with a bank. Small business owners, I think, have been overlooked, or not overlooked, but just not served great by traditional banks so far. And the reason is because of the historical legacy of commercial banking and personal banking and retail banking, and that being completely separated. And so I think part of what we would need to figure out in partnership with more traditional banks is, okay, how do we bridge that gap? Or here's an opportunity to bridge that gap and really grow with your small business owner customers and look at both sides in a seamless way. And so I think these are some of the early conversations that we're having with traditional banks. But the fintechs move much faster. And so we've been primarily launching with fintech partners so far, and continuing to have conversations with traditional banks, growing together, I think, and evolving that strategy over time.
I guess there's almost like there's a product gap that traditional banks have as well, but there's also a cultural one too. I think, in the sense that, SMB owners they live and breathe the success of their businesses. As you mentioned, everything is commingled: their finances, their lives, their relationships, and it's like, to be able to serve them. To me, it feels like it's not just a product issue. It also requires getting something that speaks to that intensity almost.
Yeah. I think that's true. And I think so I was actually just at the small business banking conference in Vegas a couple of weeks ago. And I remember that being, there is a desire to serve small business owners and be able to speak with them. But I think what a lot of banks, to your point, being able to internalize how passionate small business owners are, being able to overcome the siloed nature of banks in terms of how they currently serve their customers. But then on top of that, winning the right to through those things, winning the right to be able to have that conversation with the small business owner, which they don't necessarily have today, in the sense of, if a small business owner goes and has questions about their finances, do they go to their banker or do they go to their accountant? I think, 8 times out of 10, right, they're going to their accountant first. And so I think those are some of the things that, we're all working through to make sure, and accountants are stretched to the extreme as well, of making sure that business owners are getting the right financial advice. And this is what I mean by, I think it's very exciting as this space continues to evolve, all of us with the right intentions for small business owners, but building in that direction, changing our cultures to be able to serve them better.
I totally see that too. And, we have a flagship banking conference every year called the Big Bank Theory. And this year we focused in on SMBs solely. We normally do both sides of the house, but to speak to that, and I think we are seeing thanks to companies like yours, we are seeing a renaissance of focus on this industry, or on this target market, I should say, and with new tools that are actually designed just for them, which is beautiful to see, and I think it's one of the most fruitful places to invest in right now. We're recording this at the end of October, 2024, and I'm curious, what are your big audacious goals for the rest of the year and looking forward to 2025? Sounds like, you're focused on bringing in new customers, onboarding and launching new partnerships. But what are some of the big things as the CEO you have on your plate?
Oh, yeah, lots.
What don't you have? We could start like that,
yeah,
right?
That's right. So we actually just came off. We just announced actually our seed round last week. So thankfully, we have the support of a lot of investors, and we have the capital to sort of heads down for the next however many months. And so top of mind for me right now are two things. Is we have a bunch of partners sort of on deck that we are working towards launching, making sure existing partners are successful, launching these new partners, making sure they're successful, and then simultaneously always building, engineering, making sure that that our product continues to scale with the new customers coming on board, making sure that the tooling for our advisors continues to grow and get more and more efficient, more and more accurate. So two main things top of mind, and we're going to be running through the end of the year and into next year.
Well, I wish you best of luck. And as you're saying that, it's not lost on me the fact that as you're saying these big goals that you have, you're also a small business in the extent that you have limited resources,
That's right.
limited time and energy. And I could see you also figuring out how we're going to get there too. Or it's always magic,
I have
right?
a lot
Miracles
of empathy
at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Well, Jessica, thank you so much for telling us about Uprise, and thanks for joining us on the Tearsheet podcast today. And best of luck in the next year.
Yeah, thank you so much. It was great to chat.